If your manifestation feels delayed or as if something is off, the first thing that you need to look into is your trust within that manifestation. So today we're going to talk about this. We're going to anchor your trust within every level of your manifestation so that you can call it in bigger and quicker, and it has to also be soul-led. So when we're talking about trust, we either believe that we can have this manifestation, we believe that it can go quick, we believe that it can be smooth, or we believe that it will be difficult, or is this really something that I'm so sure about since this doesn't happen. Trust does always exist, but we can base our trust, or we can anchor our trust within scarcity, and we can anchor our trust within belief, faith. So this is the big difference. And what we notice is that when we begin to base our trust within scarcity, that is also what we start to receive. We start to question the manifestation, or question when it will happen, or are we good enough for it, or like, do we do everything that we're supposed to do in this, and all of that, right? So that is also what we will start to send out, the signals, and that's also what we will receive back and start to see from the world. Trust and certainty and holding the frequency of certainty is something that you always do. You're whole already, so you always hold the frequency of trust. It's just a matter of how you hold that and how you show up for that trust. So there are two parts today that we have to talk about. The first part is your soul-led desires. How do you even know that that is your soul-led desire? And then, as I said, the anchoring of this trust within every level of your manifestation, which is 4 levels. So, soul-led desires, or being led by something that your soul is really calling for. How you know that this is a desire that is so true to your heart, that is aligned with you, aligned with your purpose and how you want to live your life, is the level of emotion that you feel within, the level of the frequency, the energy that you feel from that desire. So what I mean with this is that usually we can get a little bit off stray, or we can experiencing delays, or that our manifestations feels off because we are looking into the end result and that's it. We are not deepening our understanding into the emotional representation of this desire. So what do you emotionally feel? Like if your soul is like, it feels as if your soul is led towards more self-space, it's led towards manifesting quicker, or building a better relationship in which you're already in. What is the emotional representation of that desire? What is it that you want to gain? Is it harmony and balance within? Is it tranquility? And what's that about? When you want self-space, you may feel that you want balance in life, so you feel that you want to have this kind of flow and inspiration, not only in your passions, but in the other parts of life as well. So we have to go deep into what is the association of the desire that I have. It is always we following the be, do, have, right? So when we follow the be, do, have, that means that we want to have something, right? And in order for us to have something, we need to be a certain person, or we need to be in a certain energy. We need to become that person that has what it is that we want to have. And when we know that, we need to start with the being, right? So how you start with the being is to tapping into the emotional representation of it. This is also you building a very deeper trust within the desire in itself, because you're understanding that it's not only about something shallow or something that I just romanticized. No, you feel it deep within. It becomes a indicator which you feel from within, and not looking outside of you to kind of tell you that you are in the right direction. The decisions and the desires you have has to align to you feeling inspired, and where you feel the most inspired, that's where you are being called to go towards. But now don't forget that sometimes our soul needs us to pick up clues in life. It needs us to pick up a new perspective, a new understanding. We need to mature a little in something. So sometimes we can be led towards something that is not necessarily the end goal. And even though nothing is the end goal in the end, everything is endless, so to say, but end goal, quote unquote, what we see as a human. So if you maybe feel and believe that it's only through this type of job or through this type of passion or through this type of person that you will get what you emotionally want to receive, that's limiting. And it's not seeing the abundant side of it. It's not seeing that, okay, there's something my soul wants to experience here now, and I'm going to be fully immersed within this experience. And then I can also see how I receive this experience, not only through that passion, not only through that relationship, but I also get to receive this desire in other areas of my life too. How abundant isn't that? The 4 levels of manifestations. How are you going to show up and trust and have full certainty within your manifestation so that you can manifest bigger and quicker? The first is to build an anchor trust within your practices, your habits, within your relationships, and the community within itself. Sometimes we begin to build a habit because we want to accomplish a certain goal, or we want to build a certain routine, or build a certain passion, or build a certain strength within us. And we do this a little bit on autopilot. We are doing that kind of habit, but we are not showing up in that habit. So how that looks like is that we are just like, oh, this feels annoying. Oh, I don't really feel for doing this, but I will do it because I promised myself and I believe that through this I will get this, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're in that kind of zone. You are not fully trusting that this is actually the way to go, and you're not fully standing behind. When you're showing up for your desire, it's where you practice over and over again that trust, to choose that trust. If things aren't happening and you see in your routines and habits that you're actually not so compassionate about them, that might actually be because you're not showing up for them. That's the same in a relationship. Sometimes we want something out of our relationship, but do we actually show up as that person as well? Do we actually have trust in ourselves? Do we actually have trust in other people that other people wants us good, right? And through that, we also know, do I really stand behind this manifestation or not? The same with community. There's so often that we can just like, oh, the state is this and that. I don't believe in the cops. I don't believe in this or that. And then we require that we are supposed to be supported by the system, so to say. But how do we serve the system in itself, or how do we support the community? I used to be so much like, I just want to get out of this shit and not like participate at all, until I actually realized how I am of service as anyone else to keeping this earth a place for everyone, and how I can just tap in and giving from my place of service, so that I also show up in that energy, and through that I will also be supported back. I used to feel that I was not supported by society, not by structures. I was not supported by companies. I was not supported by this or that. And that was me needed to really shed certain things within me and see that I actually have to hold the trust here as well. And I have to show up and give the support that I want to receive. So the gap I see is usually that we either believe that you only need to trust yourself, or you only need to trust others, but that's not really the way that you are supposed to go it at. And also that we don't commit, actually. We are not fully standing behind trust and belief in the practice we do, or what the habits that we believe will actually give us something. Like, you know, when we are starting to work out and we're just like, will this even get results? I don't see the results quick enough, blah, blah, blah. All of those thoughts are still us trusting in that we will not get the results. Instead, we have to start to trust that we will get the results. So the next level of this manifestation of bigger and quicker and showing up in your manifestations is to hold the trust in your emotional and mental space. This is huge. I learned this a lot. Okay, so this is in regards to mental thought processes, and also understanding how you can emotionally regulate. So when you do feel that you are not really trusting your manifestation, or you're not like holding the frequency or the certainty that everything will be all right, everything will work out in a greater way than you can ever imagine, is when we usually like start to react on the situation. We see something that is not aligned with the manifestation, or we just are in the end and we are getting so curious and excited at the same time, so nervous, and then we're just like, oh no, it's flipped out of our fingers, right? There are certain moments in our manifestation levels where we realize that, wow, I actually need to respond differently. I would say not react, respond differently to what I feel and to the situation in itself, because or else I'm keep on building this frequency once again of that, okay, it didn't happen this time either, or okay, there was something that I missed, or okay, there's something that is lacking, okay, I need to fix this. That's the same for the mental processes as well. If we're continuing to think about this, will like the worst case scenarios, what will happen if this or this and that, we are still building our trust in that there will be something bad happening. We are not building the trust in that everything will work out best case scenario. The gap I see in this level of manifestation and not being holding that level of trust that we want and showing up in the way that we want is by us knowing that we should not respond in a certain way, but we continue to do that. And we continue to blame ourselves because we know that we are not supposed to respond that way, and we do not want to carry that dominant vibration, right? So what we have to do instead here is to, like, it's a little bit different what you have worked with before. Sometimes, we have to have a conversation about it. But I would say something that have helped me the most when it comes to emotional regulation is to understand what happened and then rewrite it. So I went for a long time, and until it became a habit of mine that I could do it already, like in a couple of snaps in my head. But for a long level of time, I did that when something happened which I didn't like, or I saw that I wanted to improve in this. I wrote down the situation and I went back and looked into the situation, and I asked myself, okay, how can I show up in another way next time, in a way where I feel more proud of, and in a way where I maybe feel what was missing. Did I feel that it was missing some kindness or gentleness or understanding? How do I want to show up next time when something similar appears? And that helped my brain to start to notice and pay attention to when similar situations happen, just like, wait a minute, I was supposed to act in this way, and instead this is what felt aligned to me. And then I began to do that. That's the same for thoughts. You can do the same way. But with thoughts, I would also say that just being in the energy and frequency is sometimes more helpful, because you have so many thoughts. So you can rewrite thought after thought after thought. But if you're not in the frequency, in the energy of being the person that you want to be, that will not help so much. Because if you are just like, you are that person, you are being that person, you do not need to necessarily think so much what you are thinking, because you will already have a certain identity who thinks in a certain way. You understand what I mean? So you can either start with the thoughts, or you can start with the being directly. It depends on what feels aligned to you and where you feel that you can start at. That leads me into the third level. When you are entering this level of manifestation, you are in the being state. And the being state is important to understand that you don't get what you want, you get who you are. And who you are will also create a very, very deep level of trust, because you are becoming the identity of someone who already trusts. You're becoming the identity of just like, I know I have flow in this area, or I know that I always attract good people into my life. I know that everything always works out for me. You're getting into this kind of deep inner knowing. This level of manifestation goes really, really quick, and you really begin to manifest at a deeper and bigger level, just because that trust is just so, it's so anchored now, I would say, in this level. The gap I see this level is that you have too vague of a practice and too vague of a picture. So the picture, the vision, who you are becoming, the identity, that is too vague. You haven't practiced it enough also, right? So here's also a level 1 usually that we see there is a gap in. As I said, right, you need to show up for your practices and just actually do what you're supposed to do in those practices, and really stand behind them, holding the frequency of those habits. And so sometimes we make it too vague, so we are not like really doing it. Actually, we are not having a practice fully, or we're not standing behind the trust in that practice. The same, we are not showing up in the way that we are actually supposed to show up in relationships or within our community, in order for us to fully become that person who has that identity, who is that person who have what it is that you want to have. And with this vision, I think this is very interesting because I hear this very often, that people can get unsure if what they are picturing themselves, if it is a romanticized picture, kind of a little surface level picture or not. If you have that insecurity, there is something within that may actually be surface level. I do believe that. Because if you wouldn't have that question, if you wouldn't be unsure, if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have had that thought, according to me, because then you would be so sure that no, of course not, it's not surface level. I know, my soul knows this, right? So it doesn't have to mean that the whole manifestation in itself is, but it might be parts of it which you have romanticized a little bit. So dwell deeper here, and here's where you really build that trust. As I said, the trust comes and the certainty comes in your level of being there, in your level of showing up in that identity. Fourth level, and the last level, is when your trust becomes faith. This is really your connection with your higher self, and how everything that you desire and want already exists, and what you feel within is what you will create without. This is you holding up another level of trust. Okay, this is you that, okay, I feel this inspiration now, I feel this shift in my energy. These are the internal indicators, and I don't need to see anything outside of me in order for me to really trust this. Okay, sometimes I notice it's just that since it all starts within, it's almost as it always in one way gets a level of delay according to our perception, because we are not like seeing the full picture just outside of us directly. Okay, so the gap which I see in this one is that we are thinking that it's not the right decision or the right desire, I mean. So we can start to question ourselves, feel uncertain. Is this really the desire? Is this really like something? Is it for me? Is it meant for me? Am I purposed to do this? When we are in the frequency of faith, we can many times get this purpose-driven questions, and questioning our own like ability to actually move through with something, or if it is actually us that are supposed to bring through something to life, right? So here is where we have to really be anchored within the emotional representation that I talked about before, right? Knowing that it is a soul-led desire, but also letting ourselves know that does this feel balanced? If that was what I really wanted the most, or inner peace, for instance, does this feel that it brings me more inner peace? Does this feel on a deep level that I will feel more tranquil going for this decision or that decision, right? And I don't need to know more than that. I just need to feel that. I need to feel that and know that, and that is me holding faith. And then just like surrender and seeing when things comes in. And with surrender, I'm not just mean not doing nothing. You have to see what are your inspired actions, the actions where you meet halfways, right? Usually this is a fun thing I hear sometimes. Now I'm sidetracked. Many can be like, oh, you have to do something. You can't just believe that. You can just sit there and then attract something. Well, you can if you have that belief, actually, in one way. But the other thing is that when you are so inspired to do something, when your spirit is so for it, like in it all, you can't sit still. You can't. It's not possible. That I haven't experienced that, at least. It's not possible. You want to reach out to that person. You want to call that, have that conversation, or you want to read that book, or you want to understand this about yourself. Like you are fully immersed in that experience because it's the experience which you want. It always comes down to what is the experience I want out of life. So you, of course, you want to go out and get that experience, right? You don't need to be afraid that things will not happen when you are leaning back and having full faith that things will happen for you, right? This is more like you will take the action, you will take the inspired action for it, but you will be more in sync with the ebb and flows of life, and you will flow, really flow with what's happening. So that will manifest quicker, and that will manifest bigger for you. Okay, how is this going for you? I hope that this was good for you. the shift that you're calling in now, it's so potent when it comes to you building that kind of trust. If you feel that you want to show up and build that trust and have a conversation with me about that, I do also offer coaching, so I will leave the links in the description for that. We talk a lot about carving out space for yourself, giving yourself the space that you need in all areas of your life so that you can manifest the things that you want in your life. Showing up for yourself is so central, but also being and becoming the version that you want to be. I always work with our dream version and our dream self in our coaching so that we can also create from the future, not from the past. So if this is something that you feel inspired and called to do with me, you have all the links in the description for that as well. With that being said, keep on listening to your inner trust and talk to you next time. Bye.